If you're somebody who has been looking to change your shopping habits, you want to shop less, you want to stop buying things that you don't need, you're kind of tired of how you've been shopping and spending money, this video is for you. Because today I'm going to talk about 3 things that you absolutely need if you want to start changing how you shop. I'm going to let you know what these 3 things are off the top of the bat, and then we'll spend the rest of the video talking more about them, why you need them. So the 3 things you need. Number 1, a catalyst. Number 2, compassion. And number 3, a buffer. I think our discussion of compassion might surprise you a little bit, because I do think that sometimes we need to change the way that we think about something, including ourselves, in order to make the choices and the changes that we need to. So let's get into it. Number 1, a catalyst. When you read articles or watch videos online, a lot of people say that if you want to make a change, you need a why. And this is true. Absolutely true. I've said this as well. And over the years, my perspective has kind of grown or gotten more specific on this fact. Last time I talked about this, I said that you needed a why that emotionally resonated with you. I agree with that, but I'm taking it even further and saying that if you want to change your habits, you need a catalyst. A catalyst is anything that propels you to take action. This doesn't have to be a rock bottom or a breaking point, but it certainly could be. And a catalyst is different from a why, because all catalysts are whys, but not all whys are catalysts. Now, a catalyst can be like an event. It could also be a comment that somebody's made to you. It could be a lot of different things. It just needs to be something that in like the moment when you see it, you hear it, or you realize it, you just like couldn't imagine like going back, or you like in that moment, like you want to do something about it, like right then and there. It's the kind of thing that lights a spark under you. And you need this, in my opinion, because changing your shopping habits, especially if you're an overshopper, you're an overspender, or you have a shopping addiction, you are going to be going through a major transformation. This isn't some run-of-the-mill kind of small task. You are about to do something that is large and incredibly life-changing, and you need a really freaking good reason to do it. Because when you are at your lows, which I'm sure you will experience, there's going to be parts of you who are like, why am I even doing this? What the hell? And you need something that will help push you and, keep going. But more importantly than that, you need the thing that will spark you to start in the first place. I've heard a lot of people kind of talk about their whys over the years, and I'm not the arbiter of good and bad whys because I don't know what resonates with you. But just having a why isn't always good enough to help push you and help succeed. I feel like if you look over the past 2 to 3 years of your life and you've tried to do things like, let's say, become a journaler or start a journaling practice, one of the reasons why you've failed, if you have failed, is part of that is that you didn't have a strong enough why to help you make that choice in the first place. Yes, you can implement all the habits that you want, but if you don't really have a motivation that lasts beyond a day or 2, like you're going to be in a bit of trouble there. So the catalyst will help you take that first step, that first plunge, which is even more necessary with bigger steps. Because I think with bigger things, there's a lot of fear and there's a lot of uncertainty, like what's about to come. And fear can hold a lot of us back from making the choices that we want to make. The catalyst helps push you through the fear, helps push you through all the doubts or the things in your head saying, no, I shouldn't or I can't. For me, my catalyst, I will never forget this. I mean, I've been writing some Instagram posts and I've been reflecting on some very horrible shopping mistakes I made over the years. And honestly, like there have been moments that like should have been catalysts, but weren't. But my catalyst came just after Black Friday in 2019. And I got all these packages, like like I received like hundreds of things that year, like literally hundreds of things. And I was standing in this like mess of packages. My room was a literal mess because I had ordered so much stuff. And I was standing there just looking at it all. And I just like, I had this moment of clarity. Like a few hours ago, I was so excited because I got like 5 new things delivered. And then here I was standing in this mess and I was looking to buy more stuff. Like it just like wasn't enough. I was so disgusted that I owned so much, yet I'd purchased so much, yet I was wanting more. So I was looking at all my stuff and, you know, after I had that like light bulb moment of, I went from 1 second being so happy and the next being like, oh my God, this is so much stuff, but I want more. I went to go look at my credit card bill and I saw the number and I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. And I freaked out because I was like, how did I not know that I was spending this much money? Number one. And then number two, that hit me like a ton of bricks. I was shopping away my future for what? Like for literally what? For freaking shoes and lipstick? Like what the hell? Every day I was choosing stuff instead of my future. I was choosing, you know, like lipsticks over home. It was just that like visceral feeling of like checking my credit card. I don't think I can ever forget it. And I knew in that moment that things would have to change. I was not willing to sacrifice my actual dreams, goals, and like my literal life. By life, I mean like the life I desired for myself. In my opinion, if you don't have a catalyst, I think that there's a greater likelihood that your habits or your goals, they're just going to fizzle out, or you're going to go back to bad behaviors. Or if you do slip up, if you do make a mistake, that's going to become a reason to give up instead of a reason to continue. Number 2 is compassion. When it comes to changing your shopping habits, compassion is absolutely an overlooked ingredient, overlooked necessity, I would argue, because it is absolutely necessary. It's very likely that one of the reasons why you've avoided looking at your habits or like examining them truly with honesty is that you're afraid. You know things are bad. You know that they're not how they should be, but you are so afraid to see the extent of the damage, see the extent of like where things are. You know that you screwed up. You know you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. Like you already know that. This is where you need compassion, because yes, there is this fear, but also like fear of what? Fear of change. Yes. But also I think fear of judgment. You're afraid of confronting yourself and the choices that you've made. You're afraid of like those feelings of the guilt and the shame and the regret. But guess what? If you come with compassion to that moment, then there is no guilt or shame. Like you're coming there. Just imagine your friend comes to you and they go, Shauna, or whatever your name is, and they say, Shauna, I've spent this amount of money, or I'm in debt, or I'm like this. I feel like crap. And they express to you as a friend, like the exact kinds of same things that like you're thinking. I'm a failure. I'm a piece of shit. I'm this, I'm that. I'll never do this. I'll never do that. Would you really judge your friend? Would you really tell your friend, yeah, you know what? You're kind of shitty. You're kind of bad with money. I don't think that you're a good person. Hell no. Why would you say that to yourself? In this moment, you need compassion more than anything, because flogging yourself, beating yourself up, that truly accomplishes nothing. It, in fact, makes the situation worse. You feel worse about yourself. You'll feel worse about the situation that you're in, and it could maybe even feel like that hole is insurmountable, that you can't actually climb out of it. I think it's this moment right here that prevents a lot of people from checking in, and what also like ultimately keeps people from checking in and then having their hands forced somewhere down the line where like they have to change because they truly can't afford to go on any longer. Their bank has called, or they're in collections, or your lights are being turned off. You know, something kind of more extreme has happened and your hand has been forced. If you're in a moment like that, you can absolutely come to yourself with compassion. Like, it's just because you're at one stage versus another doesn't mean you don't deserve compassion. Absolutely not. Here's the thing. Even if you've let it get to a point where your hand is forced, you can still come to yourself with compassion. Not like it's not a case of you don't deserve it because you've made worse choices than you expected, or because your hand has been forced, you don't deserve compassion. No, that's probably even more necessary to come to yourself with compassion. And having compassion for ourselves is one of the best things that we can do because it helps us see our choices with clarity and without judgment, which is so important because some of like when we're looking at our choices, you know, I spent this amount of money. Part of what feels like the choice are all of the feelings wrapped up in it and how you feel about it. It's not, okay, I spent $3,000, I don't have to pay back. It's like, oh my God, what did you do? You spent $3,000. You don't have the money. What the fuck? What's going to go on? Like, I can't afford this. I'm going to go into debt. I'm going to do this. And then it just becomes this like big dramatic scene instead of, I spent $3,000. I'm not saying don't care, but we don't have to be wrapped up in our judgment. Coming with compassion is a bit like coming with self-awareness and coming with ownership. Let me kind of give you a bit of an example here. Have you ever been in a moment where like something sets you or your partner off? Maybe it's a friend or like a child or a parent, and somebody just gets sets off and they just start yelling at somebody else. It could be a small thing, big thing, doesn't matter. And they just start yelling, and then there's like a screaming match that happens between these two people. They eventually will go their separate ways, or they, you know, somebody will intervene and break up and be like, okay, maybe not. Then they come back, maybe later that day, maybe the next day, maybe a few days later, they come back and they have the conversation. Both parties are calmer. Both parties are ready to like actually have a discussion. Nothing of benefit really ever happens in the screaming match. The resolution, the working towards the problem comes in the even-keeled, calm discussion. Coming to yourself with compassion is kind of like the latter, not the former. The former is more akin to you judging and beating yourself up. So you can decide to come with compassion, and to, if you're, let's say, opening credit card bills or deciding on like a plan of action to take, you can define what compassion is going to look like, and you can focus on non-judgmental noticing. You're just going to notice all of the things that are happening, what you're seeing, and you're not going to judge. This credit card bill is $3,000. This credit card bill is $6,000. I have $10,000 of student loans, and currently in my bank account, I have $10,000. Let's now think about this action plan. Like what kind of payment plan can we have set up here? Maybe if we're not just dealing with debt, maybe you're dealing with more so like you can afford the way that you're shopping, but like you're not having savings, like you're not going into debt, but you're not having savings. Maybe you can open up the credit card and look at how much you're spending. Maybe you can itemize things. That's still non-judgmental noticing, or coming up with a game plan is still non-judgmental noticing. You're just kind of noticing different things and coming up with an action plan for different things. Or maybe first step isn't even an action plan. Maybe first step is just, let me assess the situation. Let me look at my credit card bills, or let me look at my debit card bills. And that's just going to be step one. I'm just going to look at it. I'm going to look at how much is in my bank. And that's step one. You can choose compassion at every step. And compassion is a choice. Number 3 is slowness, and by extension, buffers. Buffers are absolutely essential into developing good habits. When we're trying to change a habit, We need two things. We need to know what the habit is, and we need to have a solution that we want to implement. But we're probably going to have to try out a couple of things, or maybe you have to try something a few times, even if, we think it'll be successful. You might have to try different iterations of it, but you're still going to have to try it out. There's a good chance that a large portion of how you act is governed by autopilot. You do things automatically without thinking, and the way that you shop is triggered by specific cues. There are a few really common habits, some that are more autopilot than others. In my opinion, reactionary habits are probably some of the most common autopilot behaviors. And then maybe time. But all of them kind of can be autopilot as well. Reactionary events are sometimes called like preceding event habits, are when you do something in response to something else. So you get a push notification that comes up on your phone, you check Instagram. You typically don't think about, I'm going to check Instagram and like decide. It's like, and it happens. Now, if you want to change your behavior, you need to stop the autopilot, which is hard because we don't always notice, or we're not always aware of the autopilot behavior. If the goal is to eventually stop scrolling on Amazon while I'm in bed, you need to first, you're aware that you want to stop scrolling on Amazon in bed. And let's say you also have a solution. You are going to play Sudoku in bed. So you have a solution, you need to try it out. Well, in order to change the habit, you're going to have to catch yourself in the act, which is hard. So in order to catch yourself in the act, you need to build in a buffer, or you need to build in some kind of slowness to your routine so you can catch yourself in the act, so then you can implement the habit. Are you with me so far? Buffers give you time to think. So with something like impulse spending, if one of your habits is you see something on YouTube and then you go and you click checkout right away, there's no buffer in there for you to think about anything. And if you had time to think about it, you might not make that choice. So again, you want to build in time or a buffer in order to give you time to think about it or to implement a different habit. So one of the central goals of habit change is to create buffers or slowness to build in more time, to give you more time to think critically and react in ways that you deemed beneficial. Finding time in the middle of an autopilot act is really difficult. So catching yourself is the first step. It's easier to catch yourself than to build in time, or you need to catch yourself in order to build in the time. The way to do this is to build buffers. So one way we can start this is by noticing. It's just like spending maybe like a day or 2 days, just like noticing how you shop, noticing what you're doing. And you can create a dialogue about this. I noticed that I got an email pop up from H&M. I noticed that I clicked on the offer and spent $300. So if you notice that the coupon led to the immediate click, led to the spending $300, you can find ways to build in buffers along the way. So to make that whole time longer, maybe you don't get your emails at certain times of the day when you're the most vulnerable. Maybe you don't have your credit card information or your address on any of the places that you shop, period. So you have to physically get up, go get your credit card, type in, what you want. In these examples where the promotional email led to the spending, you can leave checking your email to specific times only. Or you can try and build in, let's say, a 24-hour window where you have to wait before shopping a promotional email or any email. If you end up hopping on the H&M website midday when you said you'd wait 24 hours, hopefully, if you're in the practice of noticing, you'll notice that you're on the H&M website when you said that you would wait 24 hours. I'm not entirely sure if I was clear about this. The reason why you would want to start noticing is kind of twofold. Number one is that it helps you get acquainted with your habits, but also number two, it is a way to start building in buffers or slowness. Because when you're noticing stuff, you're adding length to the time it takes you to do stuff. Even if it's just a couple of seconds, sometimes that's all you need in order to start making the changes that you want to make. And you don't have to do this necessarily like every single day, but getting into the practice when you can especially if you're at the beginning of like your shopping journey or you're changing your shopping habits journey, this could be a really great place to start. So if you say, I want to wait 24 hours before shopping, that rule is great. It's really difficult to follow that rule if you have this autopilot behavior of see a link, click on it, buy it. So the first step to building in the 24-hour window is to start noticing. Then when you want to buy stuff, there's other buffers that you can build in. You can remove your credit cards from websites. You can put your wallet physically in another place. That's something that I still have to today. It's actually just like a habit that's now stuck with me for 3 years. My wallet is back there. It's inside my like belt bag and it's zipped in. And if I ever want to go buy something, I have to physically go to the belt bag, unzip it, take my credit card out and pay for it. This has now become my autopilot behavior that I don't think about anymore, and it just works for me, so I don't really have a reason to change it. So there's multiple ways you can build in buffers or slowness in order to stop yourself from an autopilot behavior or negative behavior that you want to change. There's certainly more that you can do, but I feel like this is a great place to start. I would love to hear what you think about these. And if you've tried any of these techniques yourself, I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching and hanging out with me today. I loved having you here, and I hope to see you again around here soon.